Hey everyone, I'm Nick, and this is another BookTube channel. Quick moment here to thank all of my subscribers. I just crossed the 200 subscriber mark, and I'm really thankful. I did not expect anyone to really watch these videos, so the fact that I've been doing this for 2 months now, and I've been getting consistent engagement and comments from you guys, I'm really appreciative. So thank you so much. I thought that I would celebrate this by talking about a subject that might scare a bunch of you away. Today I'm going to be talking about a touchy subject. It's about the recent outcry over censorship to the children's books of Roald Dahl. If you're not aware, it was recently discovered that Puffin Books, the children's imprint of Penguin Books, has issued new editions of Dahl's works with extensive rewrites to cover up what is deemed to be uninclusive language. The determination of what language needed to be changed was performed by an organization called Inclusive Minds, who claim that they themselves do not write, edit, or rewrite texts, but provide book creators with valuable insight from people with the relevant lived experience that they can take into consideration in the wider process of writing and editing. I think it's worth making clear here that this decision to make these changes was not the result of fascism. It was not the result of some mythical woke mob that doesn't exist. It was just Puffin Books and the Dahl estate who collectively decided of their own volition, unprompted, they wanted to make these changes. That the publisher said, if we have to publish these books, we would feel better if these changes were made. And the Dahl estate saying, if we have to live with the Dahl name, we don't want his works to be remembered, in this way. That's up to them. That's their choice that they made on their own, unprompted. Regardless of who is actually making the changes, changes are being made, and many are furious. Author Salman Rushdie has vehemently spoken against the changes, saying that Puffin Books and the Dahl estate should be ashamed. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak also issued a statement via spokesperson saying, "When it comes to our rich and varied literary heritage, the Prime Minister agrees with the BFG that we shouldn't gobble funk around with words. I think it's important that works of literature and works of fiction are preserved and not airbrushed. We have always defended the right to free speech and expression." I am going to preface my own opinion by saying this. I am a straight, cis, white male with no religious affiliation. I have never been marginalized or oppressed in my life, and I'm basically impossible to offend. I'm not saying this to brag, I'm saying this to acknowledge up front that the changes that are being made to these books weren't made for me, so you may not feel that my opinion on this matter is as valid. But I would also like to say that I understand my privileges, and I've spent years doing what I can to be an ally to those who are marginalized. So I totally understand the good intentions behind these changes, but I still don't love them. Inclusivity is important, and I don't disagree that there are some words that children should not be exposed to. If Dahl was flippantly using the N or the R words in his writing, then I would be 100% fine with those being edited out and replaced with something more appropriate. But when I look at some of the actual changes that were made, I have to question the necessity here. An example of a change that I think is acceptable but maybe still unnecessary is changing Augustus Gloop in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory from being described as enormously fat to just enormous. The description really isn't changing that much. We still get the idea that Gloop is a bigger person. They've just taken out the word fat. And I get it. The word fat can be demeaning. Okay, whatever. I still don't love the change, but this isn't a hill that I'm willing to die on. Where I do start to feel like boundaries are being crossed is in changes like this one. In The Witches, Dahl had written, "You can't go around pulling the hair of every lady you meet, even if she is wearing gloves. Just you try it and see what happens." That text has been changed to read, "Besides, There are plenty of other reasons why women might wear wigs, and there is certainly nothing wrong with that. This one is a bit ridiculous to me. If the intention of these inclusivity changes is to rectify examples of Dahl incidentally offending people, changing this line makes no sense. Dahl's original text is in no way, shape, or form belittling or marginalizing women who don't have hair. It's a funny line telling kids to not pull women's hair. If they had added the new line to the text rather than replaced the old line, it would still be a bit silly and maybe kind of cringy, but it would at least be consistent with the idea of making sure the text was more inclusive. Perhaps even just an asterisk at the end of the original line that leads to the new line in the footer of the text. I think that maybe would have been a good compromise. But they didn't just add it, they replaced a completely harmless line by the original author, and that to me is a step too far. There are a lot of examples like this, and I'm not going to go through each one. There was one other change that made me laugh, and it's from The Witches, where they changed the description of the witches from being like supermarket cashiers or letter writers to top scientists and business owners. And I'm just like, wow, they really girl bossified the witches. Also, my partner works at a supermarket in management, and something that makes her completely irate is when people talk about supermarket cashiers as though they aren't important or good work. So congratulations, with your change, you've actually made supermarket cashiers feel bad about themselves. Ultimately, changing a word here or there to take out something that's very obviously insulting is something that I can be okay with. It's when chunks of original text are removed and replaced that we start to enter the area of messing with authorial intent, and I find that to be incredibly problematic. I also want to make sure that I am being completely transparent here and not lying to you or myself, so let me make it clear. The only reason that I am even entertaining these changes is because they are children's books. For any book above a children's reading level, I am 100% against changing any portion of the original text, full stop. As much as I would hate for this to be the case because I remember loving these books so much as a kid, I think the better course of action here is the one suggested by Philip Pullman, author of the His Dark Material series, and that is to simply let Dahl's books eventually go out of print. Leave them out in the world and let the parents who are buying their kids' books decide whether or not they want them to read them. Rather than hammer and mold Dahl's books into something acceptable by today's ever-changing standards, just make the decision on your own as a parent that you'd rather your kids read something else. As with everything in life, there are always going to be exceptions and gray areas, and I obviously couldn't cover everything with this video. I didn't even touch on the fact that many have accused Puffin of only indulging these changes due to the recent acquisition of Dahl's properties by Netflix, so they're just trying to preempt any future controversies. I also didn't touch on Dahl as a human being and his many problematic viewpoints that he held just as a human, because that's a whole different discussion. I really just wanted to focus on the censoring of these kids' books. I hope I did a good job explaining my perspective while remaining respectful of others, and I encourage you to do the same in the comments. Thank you for spending some time with me today, but now it's time to get back to reading.